Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganasadrisham Tattvamasyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badaraya Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Sadashivasamarabham Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Vande Guru Parampara Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudiraye Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll start from the few paras before, and then we'll go to verse 13. Is the Lord really impartial? Therefore, Krishna is saying here, don't blame me. Don't say that I'm partial and that because of my likes and dislikes, all these things happen to people. But his statement can still be questioned based on the seemingly unjust differences we see among different types of people. If, as Krishna says, he is the author of the world, Shrishtikarta, the one from whom everything has come, then ultimately he is the author of all the people in the world. Why then has he placed some people in elevated positions and others in lowly positions? Why in the Vedic context is one person called a Brahmana, another a Kshatriya, yet another a Vaishya, and still another a Shudra? How is it that there are such differences in the world? The Brahmanas have their own position in society, as do each of the others. There is a certain order, a hierarchy, wherein one group of people seems to be superior to another, and some people have no place in the system at all. As the author of this world, is Ishvara not responsible for all these differences? And if he is responsible, he must certainly have a problem, the blemish of partiality. Why else would he put a silver spoon in the mouth of one person, a gold spoon in the mouth of another, and a platinum spoon in the mouth of yet another, and no spoon at all, not even a plastic one, in the mouth of still others? And there are people born with no mouths at all. Why does Ishvara do these kinds of things? If this question cannot be asked and answered, why bother about God at all? Is it not enough to say this simply means that God does whatever he does, and because he's God, no one can question him? Well, he may be God, but I am the sufferer. First, you tell me he made me, and then you say he knows my problems better than I do. How? I am I am the one who is born crippled and cannot see or hear. God seems not to know that being crippled, blind, and deaf is not a pleasant life, since he made me this way. But I know better. If God knew what I know, he would definitely have made me differently. And since he didn't, isn't he just another defective manufacturer? If you buy a car in which even the slightest flaw is detected, there is such a furor made about it that the manufacturer calls back all the cars of that particular design, if only to change one bolt in the brake system. But as a manufacturer, Ishvara cannot be questioned, it seems. Nor does he call back anything. He does not say, I'm so sorry, that was a hurried job. Please send it back to me and I will give you new legs or whatever. Instead, the person has to suffer through life without eggs, legs, eyes, ears, and so on. What kind of God is this that sits above us somewhere, having a wonderful life, while some unfortunate person has to inch along the ground because he or she is lame? And if God must make a crippled person, at least he could do the least he could do is to put the person in America where motorized wheelchairs are readily available. Even this much he does not do for the person. How can we look at such differences and say that God is justified in all that he does? What kind of justification is this? You find some people born with parents and others who do not even know who or where their parents are. A child may be born in South Korea to one set of parents, and he is raised in Vancouver by another set of parents. Everyone thinks he's doing very well, but in fact, he is not, because he is painfully aware that he is noticeably different from his parents and his brothers and sisters. If he had been raised in Korea by his original parents, he would look the same as everyone else and would not have the problems he has growing up in Vancouver. Even though a baby is a baby, adoptions do not really work. Even animals who have been adopted have problems adapting to a new habitat. Why would a baby have to be adopted in the first place? Whether in this country or elsewhere, why should the child not be with his or her own parents? Because we do not know where the father and mother are, we say the child is an orphan. If everyone is created by God, can we say an orphan is created by people? No. Again, God seems to be some kind of a sadist. Has God himself said we must follow him? Further, I am told that not only has God made me, but he has also said that I must follow him. And how do I know this? Someone else tells me. The least God could do is to come and tell me himself. Then this would all mean something to me. In fact, God should tell everyone. Instead, someone tells us that God told him and then asked him to tell us. If God wants me to know this, why does he not tell me himself? Also, another person sometimes comes along saying that God told him that what he told the first person earlier is no longer current, and what we are now going to hear is the latest word from God. This kind of God is someone we would all be better off with, in fact. If God is something that is to be established, the concept should be a rational one at least. What is unreasonable cannot be accepted. Thus, the issue being addressed here is valid. If God made all these divisions among people, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, to use the Vedic context, then he must definitely be partial because the Brahmanas seem to be better off. To deal with this concern, Krishna acknowledges that he made them all and at the same time says that he is not to blame. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashah tasya kartaramapi mam vidya kartaram Maya by me, guna karma vibhagashaha, a division based on duties and qualities. Chaturvarnyam, four-fold grouping of people. Srishtam was created. Tasya, its kartaram, author. Api, even. Mam, me. Avyayam, changeless. Akartaram, non-doer. Vidhi, no. Maya gunakarma vibhagashaha chaturvarnyam srishtam tasya kartaram api mam avyayam akartaram vidhi. The fourfold grouping of people, a division based on duties and qualities, was created by me. Even though I am its author, know me to be a non-doer, ever changeless. Here, Krishna is referring to the Vedic system that divided people into four groups, saying that he has created both the people and the groups. As the creator of everything, Srishtikarta, the Lord cannot deny his authorship, nor does he here while talking to Arjuna. Although this classification into four groups refers to the Indian context, what Krishna says here is universally applicable. In other contexts, we see people divided in terms of royalty, nobility, wealth, and poverty. Still others refer to groups of people as the upper class, upper middle class, lower middle class, and so on. Wherever there are people, such classifications or groups are always to be found. In the Vedic context, people are divided into four groups on the basis of their qualities, gunaha vibhaga, and on the basis of what they have to do, karmataha vibhaga. This division was created by Bhagavan. About this, Krishna says, understand me to be the maker, the karta of this fourfold division. At the same time, he also says, understand that I am not the karta. I am the non-doer, akarta, because I am changeless, avyaya. I do not undergo any change whatsoever. I do not undergo the change to become the karta. How can Krishna say he has created all this and also say he is not the doer? In order to resolve this apparent contradiction, we will first look at the division of people based on guna and karma. Then we will look at how Ishvara can be their karta and at the same time be a non-doer. The nature of the gunas. The division of people according to qualities, guna vibhaga, is found all over the world, not just in India. The qualities upon which this division is based are psychological, meaning that they refer to the composition and disposition of the mind. The division based upon the quality of the mind, manoguna, is fourfold, as we shall see a little later. The gunas or qualities themselves are three in number, sattva, rajas, and tamas, the meanings of which we shall also see. Everyone has these three qualities, and from certain combinations of these three qualities, four groups are derived. One possible composition of the three gunas is sattva, rajas, tamas, wherein sattva is predominant, rajas is less predominant, and tamas is the least predominant. A second composition in the order of predominance is rajas, sattva, tamas. Similarly, the third composition is Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. And the fourth is Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. These four combinations are the only four compositions possible. There can be shades of each of these four, but a fifth composition is not possible. Why, you may ask, can Tamas, Sattva, Rajas or Sattva, Tamas, Rajas not be a fifth and sixth composition? This was exactly what my question was. By looking at each of these three gunas involved, we shall see why only four varnas or groups of people are possible when the division is based on their gunas. Sattva stands for any type of thinking. Rajas stands for activity. And Tamas stands for dullness, inactivity. Contemplativeness, inquiry, silence, shanti, and the disciplines, Shama and Dhamma, are all Sattva. Discipline is also found in a person in whom Rajas is predominant. But there will also be a lot of ambition, energy, and enthusiasm along with it. The go-getter, for example. Tamas is a certain dullness, lethargy, and laziness. Everyone is a combination of these three, and as we have seen, the combinations can vary. Babies, for example, are Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. Tamas being predominant, they sleep most of the time. As they get older, Rajas predominates and they become very active. Finally, when they are grown, we expect them to be Sattvikas. The four groups of people according to Guna. The Sattva, Rajas, Tamas composition is a very beautiful description of a person's inner composition. A person can be predominantly contemplative, a thinking person, because of which certain things are very evident to him or her. Any emotionally mature person, any inquirer or philosopher, anyone who thinks predominantly about fundamental values, the ends in life, and so on, is naturally a combination of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas in that order. In such a person, Sattva is predominant, backed by Rajas in second place, Tamas taking third place. This then is one type of person. The second type will naturally have Rajas predominant. When Rajas is predominant, the second one can be either Sattva or Tamas. When Rajas is predominant, the person is very active, fired by a certain ambition. When this ambition is directed to the welfare of others and to certain ideals, there is a lot of thinking involved. Therefore, Sattva is in second place. The person's enthusiasm and actions being backed up by thinking. Such people generally become good leaders. The world needs such leaders. Then we have the third group of people, those who are always active, having Rajas predominant, but who have Tamas rather than Sattva in the second place. This means there is ambition rather than thinking behind their actions. An example of ambition without thinking is when someone goes after money, power, or whatever without any consideration for others. Because such a person also has some sattva, some thinking capacity, he or she will not only be very active, but may also be very clever, very intelligent. But because tamas is predominant over sattva, there will be a lot of scheming, manipulation, and exploitation of others. If, on the other hand, sattva is backing up the rajas, there will be consideration for other people. There will be a respect for life and for wealth and for the freedom of others. Whereas when tamas backs up rajas, there is only disrespect for dharma, meaning there will be no regard for others. For such a person, individual ambition is most important and he or she becomes a despot. Rajas being predominant, Such people also become world leaders. If they do not become leaders, only their families and perhaps their neighbors suffer. Whereas, if they assume world leadership roles, the results can be devastating. The fourth type of person, wherein tamas predominates, presents no such problem. At worst, these people are small time criminals and at best, simple employees, not out of any real contentment or anything, but simply because of dullness. Such people have no ambition whatsoever, not even to make money. In fact, they have already decided that they cannot make money. If I could make money, I would have made it long ago, they will say. And then to justify their laziness, they add, who needs money anyway? And if such a person has a little ambition for something, he or she will not work to make it happen and will compromise at every turn. This then is what is meant by dullness, tamas. If a tamas, rajas, sattva person wants to become sattva, rajas, tamas, he or she has to become rajas, tamas, sattva first, and then rajas, sattva, tamas, and only then sattva, rajas, tamas. There is no jumping possible here. It is a process involving growth, and this is what maturity is all about. This is also what we mean by karma yoga, whereby one becomes mature by doing karma with a karma yoga attitude. Up to rajas, tamas, sattva, growth is simply a matter of performing karma, pursuing one's own ends according to dharma. Only when one performs karma with the attitude of karma yoga does the person become sattva, rajas, tamas. This is the person who can become a sannyasi. Shades of difference exist within each of these four groups. For example, rajas, tamas, sattva can be a criminal or just an ambitious salesperson. When the latter invites you into his or her place of business with a smile, you may end up paying up for the smile too. There is a rank selfishness in this type of person that makes him or her convert every action into dollars and cents. Rajas, tamas, sattva people can follow either dharma or adharma, shades of difference being there. Once you reach rajas, sattva, tamas, you automatically follow dharma. The universality of the fourfold division. But this once you reach rajas, sattva, tamas, you automatically follow dharma is not true in the current context. These world leaders, rajas, sattva, tamas is like the kshatriya, is the kshatriyas. But not every world leader is dharma, is dharmic. No, we'll see. Maybe we'll read on and then find out. The universality of the fourfold division. These are the three qualities which cause the differences in groups of people, not only in India, but all over the world. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas belong to Prakriti, to nature, which belongs to Bhagavan alone. On the basis of this Prakriti, then, this division of people according to qualities, this Guna Vibhaga is done. All people come under the four groups formed by the possible combinations of the three gunas, because everyone has to work his or her way through the four compositions in order to mature. In the Vedic context, the people having the first combination, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, are called Brahmanas. Those having the second combination, Rajas, Sattva, Tamas, are called Kshatriyas. Those having the third, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, are called Vaishyas. And those having the fourth combination, Tamas, Rajas, Sattva, are called Shudras. This then is the Guna Vibhaga, the fourfold division based on qualities referred to in this verse. Duty-based division among people. There is another kind of division inherent in the system, also fourfold, the people of each division being called by the same names. This division is based on duty, karma vibhaga. The duty of a Brahmana, for example, is to teach and to officiate at rituals. His life is one of prayer for the welfare of the society, and he lives very simply with no more than the barest essentials. He must practice Shama and gain Dhamma. He studies the Veda, teaches, and serves as an officiating priest, undertaking all those liturgical activities that are the duties of a priest. The society requires that certain religious activities be conducted, and the Brahmana is responsible for them. He is a priestly person. Thus, there is a guna-wise Brahmana and a duty-wise Brahmana. Similarly, there is a guna-wise Kshatriya and a duty-wise Kshatriya, whose duty is to protect Dharma, be committed to knowledge and protect the Vedas. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna's duty was to rule and protect the people in terms of administration, judiciary, law enforcement, and defense. All these functions fall under Kshatriya Dharma and are duties to be done in every society. A Vaishya is a person who deals in commerce, wealth, farms, agriculture, and so on. Commerce involves bringing things from the place where they are produced and selling them in other places where they are needed. Thus, a Vaishya is the one whose duty is to make things available to people. The people in the fourth division, Shudra, provide the hands and legs, eyes and ears for the others. Their duty is to serve, and without such people, nothing could be accomplished. The activities they perform are found in all societies in the world and must be done if the society is to function. In the Vedic religion, the activities of each of the four groups of people are converted into duties and are enjoined according to family. We do not know when all this started, but whoever was doing the duties of a Shudra or a Vaishya or a Kshatriya or a Brahmana kept passing these same duties down to his or her children. Strictly speaking, anyone who does the work of a particular group should be known by the name of that group, regardless of which group he or she is born into. A person who is born in a Brahmana family but does Vaishya karma is a Vaishya. A true Brahmana, on the other hand, is one who, having been born into a Brahmana family, lives a simple life so as not to exploit the society, studies and teaches the Veda, and performs the obligatory rituals for the welfare of the people, just as his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather did before him. Duties being there, we have these four groups of people. Of course, duties can be transgressed, but that is not the point here. The duties themselves, the karma, and the duties themselves, the karma, are the basis for the division of people, each group having its respective duties. Thus, there are Brahmana duties, Kshatriya duties, Vaishya duties, and Shudra duties. A man who is a Brahmana in terms of karma duty may chant the Veda, officiate at rituals, and so on, but guna-wise, he may be ambitious and may want recognition. Such a person is not sattva rajas tamas. If, however, he carries out his duties with the attitude of karma yoga, he is sattva rajas tamas. Then his attitude is, this is my karma, my duty. These duties are to be done by me. They are my offering to the Lord. Karma yoga and a duty-based society. Karma yoga is relatively easy for a person who is born into a structure where the concept of duty is so clearly defined. When the spirit behind the structure is understood, All the person has to do is what has to be done. The person need not choose a vocation in life. He or she knows exactly what is to be done based on which family he or she is born into. One's duties is written all over one's forehead at birth, so to speak. For a person who believes in the law of karma, there is no other reason for him or her to have been born into a particular family. Some karma is the governing factor, and what is now to be done is clear. For example, a man who is born into a Brahmana family knows that he has to study, perform yajnas, and so on, and he does so happily. While performing his duties, he does not mutter, "If only I were an administrator, I would have earned a lot of money by now. Instead, I have nothing." If earning money is the main criterion, a system based on duty cannot work. Everyone will look to see which vocation produces the most money and do only that. If medicine produces money, you will become a doctor. And when a glut develops in the field of medicine, you will turn to another field where there is more opportunity, more money. If money and power are the main criteria, there will be no structure, really speaking. The money and the power will set up the structure for one's education, profession, marriage, and so on. But here, in the Vedic vision, moksha, liberation, is the main aim. The Veda says that you are perfect and that you have to achieve this knowledge, which is moksha. To do this, you must have a mature mind. And this kind of a mind can only be gained by living a life of karma yoga. For karma yoga, you must necessarily have a certain duty and be clear about what you are to do. When you are clear about what your duty is, then you can perform all karma, all activity as duty. We have seen how the duties of a Brahmana are very evident to the person. Similarly, the duties of Kshatriya are very clear to him, and he performs his karma as a duty cheerfully. A Vaishya also knows exactly what is to be done by him. His father is engaged in either commerce or cultivation, or he may have a cattle farm. The son chooses one of these three, one of the three, or involves himself in all of them. Whatever he chooses to do is done as his duty and for a reasonable profit. A Vaishya also is not supposed to exploit the society in any way. For example, he must not create a scarcity by buying all available stock, storing it somewhere, and then releasing it in small amounts at large profits when the people begin clamoring for it. Such practices are definitely not in conformity with dharma, nor are they Vaishya dharma. Thus, when a Vaishya performs his duties happily, according to his own dharma, it can be yoga for him. The duties of a Shudra karma, are the same. They are not lowly or demeaning karma. They are simply duties to be done. Superiority is determined by one's maturity, not duty. No duty is superior to another. Each duty is as good, as necessary as every other duty. Therefore, one group of people is not superior or inferior to another group of people. The people themselves are nothing but Parameshwara, irrespective of which group they belong to. In every society, there are certain activities to be performed, and these activities or duties fall into four general groups. Thus, the groups that people belong to differ from each other only in terms of the duties attached to them. When a person belonging to any group performs his or her duty with an attitude of karma yoga, that person becomes guna-wise sattva rajas tamas. A Brahmana who chants the Veda for the sake of personal glory becomes rajas sattva tamas. If he does it for money alone, with no other ambition, he becomes rajas tamas sattva. And if he performs a ritual in the temple with an attitude of dullness for no other reason than to feed himself, he is tamas, rajas, sattva. There is another kind of Brahmana who enjoys what he does and does it well, but at the same time wants everyone to listen to him. He is always looking around to see who is coming. There are also those who, seeing someone who has a lot of money coming, will stop right in the middle of performing a puja and fawn all over the person. God has to wait, it seems. Thus, there are several varieties of Brahmanas. Brahmanas, meaning Brahmanas, both duty-wise and guna-wise. Kshatriya Brahmanas, those who are Brahmana duty-wise and Kshatriya guna-wise. Vaishya Brahmanas, those who are Brahmanas duty-wise and Vaishyas guna-wise. And Shudra Brahmanas, those who are Brahmanas duty-wise and Shudras guna-wise. In the same way, there are Brahmana Kshatriyas, Kshatriya Kshatriyas, Vaishya Kshatriyas, Shudra Kshatriyas, Brahmana Vaishyas, Kshatriya Vaishyas, Vaishya Vaishyas, Shudra Vaishyas, Brahmana Shudras, Kshatriya Shudras, Vaishya Shudras, and Shudra Shudras. Who is superior in all of this? A Brahmana Brahmana, Brahmana Kshatriya, Brahmana Vaishya, and Brahmana Shudra are all equal. So the Brahmana is superior. This statement must not be misunderstood. When we refer to a Brahmana as superior, we are not talking about a person who performs the duties of a Brahmana. We are talking about the quality, the maturity of the person's mind. There is a lot of confusion around this very point that has given rise to the prevalence of caste-related problems. If a man who performs Brahmana duties says that he is superior, he is definitely demonstrating a lack of the qualities of a Brahmana and is therefore not a Brahmana. You will find that many great historical saints who were not Brahmanas by birth being worshipped in temples in India. Some were Shudras and others were Harijans, meaning those who do not belong to any of the four groups. Most of these saints were duty-wise Shudras, but they have places in the temple because they were Brahmana Shudras. Therefore, guna-wise, people can be Brahmanas while belonging to any of the four duty-based divisions. Duties may change, but qualities do not. This classification of duties and people can apply anywhere, not just in India. Here, the only difference in the fourfold division is that it was reflected within the family structure itself, each family belonging to one of the four groups. Probably less than 1% of the people still follow this system. But amongst those who do, the son of a Brahmana still studies and teaches the Veda, performs the prescribed rituals, prays for the society, and lives a simple life. The system is almost gone because it requires a certain protection that it no longer enjoys. No system can survive unless it is protected. Prior to the Mughal invasions, the fourfold classification structure in India was protected by the royal families. However, during the 800 years of Muslim rule, it was destroyed. Later, in the interests of survival, people concerned themselves only with doing what had to be done to look after themselves and their families. Because a man no longer bothered about what his father's karma was, the whole structure changed in terms of duty. However, in terms of quality, guna vibhaga, the division of people does not change. This is where karma yoga as an attitude becomes clearer. A karma yogi is one who does what has to be done with a proper attitude. Such a person is also a Brahmana, sattva, rajas, tamas, with reference to the quality of his or her mind. Only this Brahmana can be a sannyasi. The mandate that only a Brahmana can be a sannyasi is based on quality of the mind alone and has nothing to do with which group a person is born into in terms of duty. So I think this is very clear, very clearly explained by Swamiji. Guna Vibhaga and Karma Vibhaga. Now, Krishna as doer and non-doer. The Vedic culture then divides people into 4 groups. Chatvaraha Varnaha, according to their duty, karma. The system itself being possible because of the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, found in everyone. And Krishna as Ishvara could say, I created them all, but don't blame me. I am not the doer. Because of their own karma, they are born differently. To blame Ishvara is like putting your finger in the fire and when the fire burns it, asking the fire, did you burn my finger? Then the fire replies, yes, I burnt your finger. And when you ask, why did you burn my finger? The fire says, I didn't burn your finger. But you continue, you told me you were the karta. You were the one who burned. You said you did it. Yes, I said it, the fire replies. Then you say to the fire, but you also said you are not the karta. You said you are akarta. Why? That is because I didn't burn, the fire says. But you burned, you say. Yes, I burned, says the fire. Then again you say, but you said you didn't burn. Yes, agreed the fire, because I didn't burn. What is all this? The fire says it is the karta and it also says it is akarta. Then the fire explains, I did it because I burnt the finger. Nobody else burnt the finger. It was me. But I didn't do it because I didn't go after your finger, did I? You stuck your finger into me. You asked for it and you got it. After all, I am fire, Lord Agni. In whichever form you invoke me, in that form I will bless you. You can try again. I can boil water for you. I can warm up your room or your hands. And I can burn your fingers too. What do you want from me? Tell me and I will give it to you. But don't blame me. From my own standpoint, I am not the karta. From the standpoint of what you receive from me, I am the karta. Because you get whatever your karma deserves. I am the law and I cannot transgress the law that I am. I will read this one more time.
Very beautifully explained. Very, very well. Very well explained.
What is all this? The fire says it is the karta and it also says it is akarta. Then the fire explains, I did it because I burnt the finger. Nobody else burnt the finger. It was me. But I didn't do it because I didn't go after your finger, did I? You stuck your finger into me. You asked for it and you got it. After all, I am fire, Lord Agni. In whichever form you invoke me, in that form I will bless you. You can try again. I can boil water for you. I can warm up your room or your hands. And I can burn your fingers too. What do you want from me? Tell me and I will give it to you. But don't blame me. From my own standpoint, I am not the karta. From the standpoint of what you receive from me, I am the karta because you get whatever your karma deserves. I am the law and I cannot transgress the law that I am. Similarly, as Ishvara, Krishna says that he had created the particular structure referred by the 4 groups of people as a part of this creation. Therefore, we are to know Ishvara as the Karta, the maker or creator of this 4-fold division. At the same time, he is also to be understood as akarta because he says, I have not done this at all. I am a non-doer. How can this be? Only from the standpoint of the world and the four groups of people in it can we take Krishna to be the doer, the karta. Whereas from his own standpoint, from Parameshwara's standpoint, in reality, he is not the karta of anything. Therefore, he is not subject to blame. A person has a particular karma that determines whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Which group a jiva is born into is the jiva's own doing and has nothing whatsoever to do with Ishvara. This fourfold division is in the creation. Those who have sattva as a predominant quality become brahmanas, and those who have rajas as predominant become kshatriyas or vaishyas. It all depends on one's composition. Everyone has the capacity to change his or her composition because everyone has a free will. One's composition has nothing to do with Ishvara. He is only the giver of the results of action, karma phala data, and is completely impartial in this regard. Ishvara is karta from the standpoint of what is created and akarta from the standpoint of his own knowledge about himself, meaning that for him there is no notion that I am the doer. That is, he has no kartritva buddhi. Krishna said earlier that this was not only true for him, but for everyone. Anyone who looks upon Ishvara as oneself, Atma, as the akarta, is also akarta.
Beautifully explained. Really.
Yeah.
Wonderful reading, Brahmaraji.
Should
It
we?
has to
Yeah.
be heard. It has to be heard and read.
Yes,
Very,
very beautiful, Raji.
very, very good.
So it is now very, very clear, I think, in our minds that the Vibhaga into 4 divisions is based on guna and karma. And this is there in all the in the whole world. But in the Vedic context, they are divided into 4 groups called Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Based on guna is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas is the Brahmanas. Then Rajas, Sattva, Tamas, Kshatriyas. And Rajas, Tamas, Sattva is the Vaishyas. And then you have Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva as the Shudras. Why we cannot have the other 2, Tamas, Sattva, Rajas, is understood, isn't it? I think there is no doubt in there.
Yeah, it's very clear.
Because see, Sattva is all about thinking, inquiry, contemplativeness. A person who is Tamas does not have that contemplativeness at all. He can only do activity, and that Sattva is only very little in him. His need to think is very little. That is why he's Tamas predominant. And therefore, you cannot have Tamas, Sattva, Rajas. Neither can you have, what was the other one? Sattva, Tamas, and Rajas. You cannot have a person who is Sattva predominant have Tamas in the second place. Because his thinking will goad him into activity. So Sattva, Rajas of course follows Sattva, and Tamas will be least predominant there. Therefore, the other 2 combinations are not possible. And then everyone has, there are 3 things involved here. One is for the Guna Vibhaga, it is a quality of the mind. And this quality of the mind can of course change because everybody has free will. And each of us has this particular set only because of our own karma. We have decided the blueprint of our Guna Vibhaga. Guna as well as the Karma Vibhaga, and all the gunas are born of Prakriti, and therefore they are subject to change. And using our free will, a Shudra by duty, by Karma Vibhaga, can be a Brahmana by Guna. He could be a Brahmana Shudra, and only a Brahmana is eligible to become a sannyasi. It could be a Brahmana Brahmana, Brahmana Kshatriya, Brahmana Vaishya, Brahmana Shudra.
And there is no difference between them.
There's no difference. Because
no
guna wise, they're
degradation.
all the same. They're all sattva predominant.
There is no gradation there.
Yeah. And how beautifully that example of the fire, bringing up how Krishna is, as he's the doer as well as he's the creator of this, but at the same time he is a karta. He is not to blame.
Fire has not gone behind the finger
to burn.
Finger itself has gone to the fire.
See, whether you want to use the fire to boil your water or to heat up your room or to burn your finger, it is your free will. How you are using karma. That is your karma. So therefore, you cannot blame Krishna in creating this division. At the same time, he has created it because from Ishvara, you have the Prakriti and the three gunas. And from the three gunas, a combination of the three gunas, you have these divisions. So therefore, he is the creator. At the same time, he is the akarta.
Not the creator. So good. Beautifully explained. Especially this verse, wonderfully explained.
And because of the change in our value system, because we have started valuing money more than our own duties along the line, and thanks to also invasions, this whole system has become topsy-turvy. Because the value is not for maintaining the purity of your family tradition. That is why it is said only 1% of people are following this till now, even today.
No, the topsy-turvy it has not become. It has become topsy-turvy because of the guna. You don't have that guna now. Duties are there, but we have changed the duty. Okay, you can change the duty, whatever it is. But guna also should change, no? So guna is going down. Therefore, all topsy-turvy.
Yeah, because see, the value is given for money.
Money.
Which profession I will get more money? It has all become very capitalistic.
Yeah, then there is no yoga there.
There is no
yoga. In your duty, in your karma, there is no yoga. Therefore, if I am doing something, if I am following a doctor profession, I have to follow its dharma also. Doctor has to save, not be after the money or whatever it is. That is its dharma. And the personal dharma of the person, that is guna, should be sattvic also. That is Brahmana.
The dharma is being chosen as per the so-called scope. That is what Brahma was just now saying. No, I'm just explaining in a different way.
Okay.
Which course your child has to join means wherever there is scope. What is meant by scope? More chances of a job which pays the highest amount. That is the scope, not exactly about what his skills are, what his interests are. The swadharma that we were talking about some time ago. That not about the skills, the instincts, the vasanas, nothing. wherever there is a scope. That is where this Varna system is all getting kind of diluted
Yeah,
and
yeah,
destroyed.
yeah, yeah.
And we
No,
ended
but
up talking more about caste, which is a rubbish concept. Carry on.
yes. No, when you are chosen now, suppose which profession is getting more. Okay. You are no engineer is getting no. Suppose. Now, what is the engineer's dharma? That has to be followed. That is not followed. Whether suppose it is his what you call prakriti is there or not, but if he has chosen that, he has to follow at least that dharma of that engineer. You know, if he has taken up that profession, he has to follow the dharma of that first. That is duty. Now, prakriti has to come again. In prakriti also, he has to go with the sattvic one. There he can change also. You see, it is with his free will. Here also in duty also he has a free will to follow the dharma. And in prakriti also he has a free will to change that also. So when he changes, everything depends upon his own wish now, the free will to change the karma and also the duty and come to the complete top, Brahmin, you know, or Brahmin Kshatriya, or Brahmin Vaishya, or Brahmin Shudra. So it is completely with his own personal hand. We can change everything with the free will also. But we have to, if it will be easier if we follow our Swadharma. It will be easier.
I think this was how it was in the Saraswat civilization, way back in the Vedic civilization. Everyone was just following their own duties. It was karma and guna vibhaga. And it was a beautiful society then. In fact, in the introduction to Mandal Vatika, Dr. Prabhakar mentions this. He's also a proponent of Vedic agriculture. He's promoting and he's reviving Vedic agriculture and natural farming. And he mentions several times about how beautiful the society was. They did not have, because everyone was doing their duties. Their, the priests were taking care of their duties. The Kshatriyas were, the kings were administering, doing their duties of protecting the people. In fact, there were no wars at that time because they would just, there was no competition. I mean, there was no thing like extending and expanding your empire. It was simple living. And the biggest construction then was the common bath, where everyone would, the community bath. That was the biggest structure apparently. And all this is unearthed in the Indus Valley civilization, in the relics of those civilizations. So I think the structure, if we go back then, it's such a beautiful structure where everyone is just doing their slotted duties, and they're doing it with an attitude of karma yoga. Ultimately, because the ultimate aim there was moksha, was not money. It is the same M. Vedic, Vedic vision, it was moksha, whereas the current world, unfortunately, is money. If moksha is your end, it really doesn't matter, uh,
Which profession you follow.
yeah, how much money you're getting does not matter
Does
at
not
all.
matter.
That is not the priority. The priority is moksha. So therefore, you direct all your attitude is karma yoga. You do not compare yourself. oh, that person has got this much and I don't have, and therefore you run after that. All that kalushita is not there, that wrong thinking is not there. You live a simple life. What a beautiful life that would have been, really. I think
Even in those days, Brahma, there was something called some people. Yes, like you said, in general, everyone was going by the family tradition, because what happens is there is something called genetics. How much ever the modern science agree or disagrees, but there is something called genetics. When, for example, a potter, for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 generations, the family has been doing pottery. What happens is even the newborn child, from the time he is in the womb also, he'll be inherently listening to the pottery kind of discussions only in the kitchen, or while in mother's womb, wherever the mother is. So what happens, some kind of instincts already get built up. But again, there sometimes there will be a very, very burning inner calling, like Satyakama, Jabali Satyakama. He wanted to become a Vedic scholar, he ends up. But we know his background, what he was, and to whom he was born, like that. In the same way, there have been exceptions, but due to inner calling, not due to material scope. That is the difference of today. Today, everybody wants to become something which he is actually not. But really, if you work very hard towards that, you can achieve what Suresh was saying. Yes, if you really work, even if you initially take up some profession thinking it has a scope, but you know it is not you are not made for that. But you work really hard to get into that slot. Yes, you can cut yourself into that slot and do. The best example there is Raja Vishwamitra. He sees the Vasishtha Muni and he sees the cow, and we know the story. I don't need to go into that. Then he wants to become a Brahmarshi. How much ever he does, he was only called a Rajarshi, Raja Rushi. But finally, that is when he goes to Trishanku Sparga. He cannot go to Sparga. We know the story. Last he becomes a Brahmarshi, probably. When he really drops everything, then he becomes a Brahmarshi. The intent, that desire to become a Brahmarshi also he drops. Then he will become a Brahmarshi. So these are all the attitudes we have to develop due to inner calling, not due to the external visible scope, which is, first of all, many people don't understand that. And even if they understand, they stick to the material causes. That is what is happening in the current day world. Rio.
I think nobody knows what is the freedom, moksha. That is the very difficult. Means freedom from what? These 4 purusharthas are there, no? Everyone knows. Okay, dharma, they will get from the scripture. Karma and kama. We know, everyone has that, kama and karma. And dharma is there. But moksha is what is to be taught or what's to be gained. And that has to come from within. You know, many people follow karma and karma. And okay, now if sattvic guna is there, dharma also will be followed. Okay, it is free will again, dharma. Kama and karma has to be done. Okay, desires will come and we have to do the karma. There is no way even to move a body or move a hand, we have to do karma. And desires will be there. Then dharma has to be spiritually taught, or whatever guru by it comes, by religion or whatever it is. That also is there. But many people doesn't know what is moksha. You know, and that is where our Vedic knowledge is needed. And once you find that as our goal, moksha, everything falls in. Wherever you are, whichever profession you are, unless you have that, the highest goal of becoming moksha, you cannot attain whatever it is. You can attain things or you can get something for, because whatever karma you do, you will get it. That is there. Results will be there. But what you have to do is the highest moksha has to be followed. And there this Vedic knowledge is needed.
I think when a person is very dharmic, automatically his thoughts will go on to, you know, to moksha. I'm not sure whether it is automatic or why does the moksha purushartha even arise in a person? What makes a person a mumukshu? What is it that instills this capacity for moksha? And then there are a few questions I just want to pose. Number one, in all of this that we have read and understood, if a person is born, and what Prem said is very right regarding genetics, there's something called epigenetics. So even, the very fact that a potter's son also tends to become a potter is actually genetically proved. So that actually comes into play when we talk of swadharma.
No, I think that is true also, because according to your karma only, you will be given the omb. You will attract that omb. From Vedic point of view also, it is same thing. According to your karma only, you will get the omb. Where to
Yeah,
be
that
born.
is true. Yeah, that is true. But at the same time, there can be many ways uh, through which the person gets uh, pushed into this mumukshatva path. We have seen, especially in Art of Living also, some different ways people are coming to Gurudev, and suddenly something happens and the change happens. That also we have seen and experienced. So there cannot be a simple straight line for it. See, many times when you सब जगह से थप्पड़ खाते हैं ना, when everywhere you are giving your 100% and still you can see that in the Maya you are when left, right, center, when you get nice this thing, and then suddenly you realize what is this? Where am I leading my life? And that due to that different types of pains, you understand that this is not the way to lead the life. इन सबसे मुझे मुक्ति चाहिए. I want to liberate myself from these entanglements. That also can lead. We have seen that, no, in Art of Living. Many people, especially ladies and all, they come to the path due to this. Some real drunkard and very wise people also, due to their own karmas, they feel that it is impossible for me to carry on like this further. Then they come Sharanagati to Gurudev, and suddenly they get transformed. Some people even they want to continue that Artha, Artharthi and Mumukshu, all those out of those four ways, in any way they can get hooked onto this path of Mumukshatva, I think so. Jai Gurudev.
Yeah, I think
Hari
it's a
Om, what happens?
Yeah.
What happens is there is a story that we all know that the farmer wants to take two bulls. He lost the rope of one, but he wants to tie both the bulls. But what happens is he's unable to tie the second one. He's worried while he's sleeping at night, it might run away. He goes to a sage nearby and says, "Sir, do you have an extra rope?" He says, why? And he says, I have to tie my bull. He says, daily how you are tying, tie the bull in the same way. He says, I don't have a rope to tie. He simply says, bull doesn't know that you don't have a rope. Like how you make all the noises and sounds saying, hey, hey, hoo, hoo, and all that. And you pretend as if you are tying it. He did exactly the same. First bull he tied with the actual rope. Second one, he pretended as though he tied. The bull was seeing his hands moving and all that. And it sat down. And till morning, it was sitting like that. It did not get up and try to run. Next day morning, he said, this is fantastic. And he untied the first one and it stood up. The second one, he was trying to pull. It was not moving. Then he went back to the sage again. Sir, it's not moving. Your trick worked last night, but now it is not moving. He said, untie that. This farmer says, I never tied it, sir. You know it, but it doesn't know. It only knows that you tied with all the actions you did last night. Untie it in the same way. The farmer comes back and says, hey, 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 and all these sounds he makes, and as if he's untying, he makes all the pretensions. Then the bull will stand up. Then this story is like to tell all of us that we feel that we are bounded and bonded by so many things, which are kind of those invisible ropes, which we bound on ourselves. Actually, we are all Jivan Muktas and we are not realizing that. The moment you remove that plug, which is blocking the knowledge that we are not really bound, the moment you remove the plug, the knowledge flows through that gap. That is what is there. This story is to explain to all of us. We are all muktas. We are not bound because what will happen will happen. We just need to do our duty with non-doership kind of attitude. Build up that attitude and you will realize that you are not actually bound by anything, but you chose to do that. Do it as an offering to God, and that's it. That is the attitude which seems easy, maybe difficult, but bit by bit we need to cultivate that. You live your normal material, spiritual, the combination of life, but make sure that you always remember, like tambura in a music concert, behind it, it always has to run behind, saying this also will pass. This is a temporary phase. You are enjoying a gulab jamun, this will pass. You are having a difficult time, this will pass. You are having a fantastic, unforgettable time along with your family members. Enjoy that, but with the inherent belief somewhere, the realization and knowledge and awareness that everything is going to pass and I have to move with it. That's it. Hari Om.
And like the tambura, not just that it will pass, keeping Ishvara in mind, keeping Krishna in the back of your mind.
Exactly. That is
Mameva.
what. When you have that tambura, Krishna's tambura, everything will fall in place. That awareness will automatically will come. That's what I meant.
But simultaneously, the sattva vriddhi is extremely important. I think you need to underline that. And sattva vriddhi will happen only those through the practices, through the discipline. For a quite a long period of time, you need to go through that discipline, which really does that chitta shuddhi. Otherwise, remaining there and Bhagwan hai, bacha lega, ye hai, rodho ke, it will help you only when you are going through the painful situation. But then you need to put your effort, your purushartha to build up on your sattva through the proper some kind of discipline for a long period of time.
Well said, Madhuriji. Well said.
Jai Gurudev, the two combinations I forgot, which are not the possibilities. It is tamas, sattva, rajas. That one I understood. Which is the other one?
Sattva, tamas, and rajas.
Sattva, tamas. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
I don't know how many of us were able to listen to Gurudev's. Yesterday there was this Bhakti Jnan, Bhakti Utsav, I think.
Yeah,
In that,
I
it
did.
was so in sync with what we were actually discussing yesterday, all about Bhakti. And he
Right.
said, so beautiful. He said, Jahan Bhakti hai, bhai nahi hai. There is no fear when you have Bhakti. So in all of this, all these gunas and vibhaga that we just read, if you're doing it with an attitude of karma yoga, where you're doing it with as an offering to the divine, there's absolutely no apprehension, no fear. Life becomes such a beautiful expression of bhakti.
That is what I told. No, the child doesn't have bhaya, abhaya. He has only the bhakti. When there is bhakti, everything vanishes. Abhaya is not at all there because you are not dependent. You know that God will help you. Bhakti is there.
But
You are
it
not
was
depending on any
surprising.
other things.
But it was
You
surprising to know that the child has more sattva. Sorry, tamas.
It is, no,
It
no,
explains.
no,
It
no, no, no.
explains because it sleeps. But the innocence and what we see, I thought they are more of sattva. I mean, this was my understanding. That got cleared.
Mhm.
I thought
and
they
that
would be more
also.
sattvic. This was
Mm,
my understanding.
mm.
No,
Because
they are more
that's where you
sattvic.
get attracted, right? Any small child
Yeah,
you see,
they are
you get
sattvic,
attracted.
sattvic only. They are sattvic and they are sleeping and then becoming more later on.
Yeah, they sleep a lot in the first 3 months. First 3 months, it's mainly tamas. So they're tamas, rajas, and sattva. But
Mm,
later on, the rajas comes in. They become
mm.
active like toddlers. They're sattvic, like a 6-month-old baby is all happiness.
Yeah, because no impressions, maybe.
Yeah,
The
they're
mind
that
has
way
not
created.
developed yet.
Mm.
Mm.
That is why
That
they're
that could
very
be the
attractive.
No, but they depend mainly on the mother as a god. So that is bhakti. So
And
they don't have abhaya. Abhaya
yeah,
is not there. Abhaya is there. And that is
and
the first quality needed.
they're also without ego, no? Until the ego develops, the I sense develops, they're very innocent. So they're that innocence is what is very attractive. And that
Yeah.
is why Gurudev says, I'm a child that refuses to grow up. Maintaining that innocence inside.
Ultimately, it is the ego only who is binding us.
Mm.
Ultimately. That I has to go. Then only that bhakti comes. When
But
I goes, bhakti comes.
right.
That was my next question, in fact. Uh, mm, I had asked this question, whether are you born with certain kind of certain amount of bhakti or degree of bhakti, and uh, how to develop it further or strengthen it further. Is it only knowledge, or because I got now the Viveka
Sanidhya,
Buddhi can be strengthened only with knowledge. What about
yeah,
bhakti?
Sanidhya,
Is it the same
Sanidhya,
thing?
Sanidhya and Satsang is also important, no? That
Hmm.
brings lot of transformation.
See, you
Sanidhya.
got this akara because of ahankara. Whatever you are born with, this akara has come only because of ahankara. Now, our process of all sadhana, seva, everything is to get rid of this ahankara. And once ahankara goes, then only bhakti comes and everything, all knowledge. All. That is the ultimate ahankara.
I
Therefore,
think
we say, that aham, has to go.
I
Then
think
there
it
is no
is
suppression.
it is to recognize that I and become aware. I don't think we can remove it as such, isn't it?
Until you have a body, you cannot remove it. You have to have little, for your body to be there, you have to have little ankara. That is what Pramaraji was telling about the our Swami, Madrasa, Ramanaji. No, he was telling about.
Yeah.
That's what.
Regarding bhakti, I think the first step will be to recognize that Ishvara is there. There is a higher power. That is the first step. And then when you offer everything, when you with the attitude of karma yoga, your bhakti automatically you are cultivating it, isn't it? When everything you do is like an offering, there is that element of honor, that element of gratitude that comes in, and that is nothing but bhakti.
It is what Niradhara. Niradhara ko adhara Sri Rama Rama Ram.
And
And
when you
Gurudev,
see, yeah, go ahead, Maltiji.
And also seeing God in everything. Yomam Pashyate
Yeah,
Sarvat.
exactly. I was just about to say that. Thank you for chipping in. When you see Ishvara everywhere, when you see Krishna, you can name it whatever. But when you see the Almighty in everything and everywhere, then that is the pinnacle of bhakti. Like Prahlada, for instance, Mirabai, for instance, it was a beautiful journey yesterday, where everything you see is nothing but his vibhuti, his manifestation. You see him in everything.
So that is knowledge of self, right? So ultimately is the knowledge which will help you to strengthen the bhakti. Can we say that?
Yeah.
So Prahlada and Mirabai, they were born with that bhakti, but people like me might have to work on
That is what the
knowledge.
that is what the characteristic of the Purushottama or whatever it is. Nirashir, Nirmama, Nirahankara. Nirashir means without depending on anything, only depending on the God.
See, that is where the free will comes in, isn't it, Rinal? See, we all are governed by Prakriti. We can just live our lives, all our lives, just by governed by Prakriti, just by whatever the gunas direct us. But there is also the element of free will, to do, not to do, and to do otherwise. That free will is, if for instance you chant or you want to read something of the Puranas, Itihasas, some devotional stories, that is your free will. As against that, if you want to do something differently, which might not promote this development of bhakti. So it is all about a combination of your free will. I think it is more to do with free will. And we cultivate this.
Yeah.
That is why the Shama, Dhamma is important. That is why the Brahmana's guna, it is said, no? He is a thinking person, contemplative, and he utilizes Shama and Dhamma. So there is an element of control of your senses, of directing your senses towards the higher.
Here I would like to add something. What Mrunalji is saying, see, most of the time through the thought process, just thinking and using our memory and reading and listening on YouTube, maybe it will continuously keep your left brain active non-stop. What I have experienced, suddenly if you switch on to some beautiful bhajana or some this thing, and then suddenly that shift happens. Suddenly your whole consciousness gets around your heart and all. And that bhakti, you cannot do bhakti from the left brain. It has to sprout from within, and that happens the moment you shift to the right side brain activities. It is more easier to go into bhakti on its own. That's what and I always do this. When too much on my left brain I am there, suddenly I put on some beautiful music, even if it is like Art of Living, Dhamal Dhoom Wala something, then I just get up and dance beautifully, just movements, and otherwise go deeper into some kind of Vikram Hazra bhajan, and then total shift happens. And this continuously, this balancing of left and right brain is very important, I feel so. Otherwise, no, just through the discussion, through the thought process, uh, I don't think so. That bhakti element has to be dawned. It you cannot. मैं भक्ति बैठ के कर रहा हूँ. It is not something to be done. That's what I
Yeah.
feel.
Thank you. Very, very beautifully shared. And here I'm reminded, we have 3 minutes. We'll close in 3 minutes.
No,
What?
here, excuse me, I'll
Yeah.
just comment. Here, the importance of Percy's prana, how to change the right and left comes in. And Gurudev always many times tells it. And many times Guruji, always be seeing the breath, which one is going on, which one is active and which one is. You might have seen, he just puts his hand under the nose. You see? And to change that also, there are ways. We come to the, what we do, the Nadi Shodhan Pranayama. And there are what Persisi was talking about, that changing the pranas. That also is in sadhana.
And also keeping the hand on the armpit, left armpit, right armpit, it changes. That's what.
That is what they used to put the kamandala, there. The Y shape hand, they will put it. So they will put it under the armpit. So that changes the left and right brain also.
Very beautiful. Very nice. I was just reminded of what Gurudev said yesterday. He said something specifically for farmers. He said, you people, what do you do to till the land? You first plow the field and then sow seeds, and then life sprouts. Similarly, he says I don't know for what he said that, but then he said to get blessings of the higher, you will have to plant seeds in the Akasha. And that is in the form of chants, in the form of mantras. And that will uplift you. Otherwise, you might just get lost in I may not be able to say exactly what he said, but the essence was that you will have to shift from just doing your planting seeds down in the floor, in the ground, to also plant seeds in the Akasha. Akasha is the space is where, from the sound is where you get all the mantras, the chants and everything.
I think that is the importance of yajna.
Yeah. And then he spoke about the Panchamahabhutas. He says we are made up for all the Panchamahabhutas and we have to take care of all of them. And praying to that and getting that space element into our lives will improve the, is very uplifting.
And for that, he said meditation.
And meditation, exactly. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we had a wonderful discussion. I think we will close today. My alarm is ringing. I don't know how many of you can hear the alarm.
Yeah,
sure.
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Today's was wonderful.
Yeah.
It very good, because that had made our Hinduism very in bad shape. And if we follow this, very wonderfully it is.
Right.
If I can request you, Brahmaraji, can you please note it down, those steps, how the Swadharma needs to be followed, like birth, and then your inclination, then if you fall into some duties, then that. I think it is step by step. If you can please put it in words on the paper.
Fine. We'll continue tomorrow, Chap, with verse 14. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev and Hari Om.
Jai Gurudev, Doctor.